In the lively, ever-cheerful land of Utopia, a world where laughter sparkled through the air and every day felt like a carnival, a group of bumbling clowns was planning their next big escapade, the Great Pumpkin Heist. This was supposed to be a grand, sinister plot to steal every pumpkin in Utopia, but anyone familiar with these clowns knew better. The pumpkins weren't worried. They knew the clowns would only manage to turn their own heist into the greatest comedy show Utopia had ever seen. The leader of this misfit gang was none other than Benny the main tragedy pimp clown, a clown with a wild, dirty beard, enormous red shoes that squeaked with every step, and a honking red nose that seemed to have a mind of its own. Benny strutted around with his chest puffed out, declaring himself the master of stealing dreams and making everyone miserable, but in truth, Benny was a walking disaster. He'd boast about his plans only to slip on a banana peel he'd accidentally thrown behind him, crash face first into a cream pie, and get tangled up in rainbow streamers. Even the pumpkins giggled at the thought of Benny trying to be menacing. Beside Benny, with a hissy attitude and a wand made from a stick she picked up on a hiking trail, was Slithers the snaky witch with a bee. Slithers loved to screech about how she was the queen of Utopia and thought herself the most glamorous creature around. She constantly took selfies, posing dramatically and sending her photos to clowns all over Utopia. But her selfies had a way of backfiring. Once, she accidentally sent out a series of photos in which she'd been caught mid-sneeze, her face scrunched up and her wig flying sideways. Utopians printed these embarrassing photos and plastered them everywhere, from pumpkin stands to hay bales. Slithers was so humiliated she tried to hide her face under her witchy hat, but everyone just laughed and waved at her. Next in the gang was no classy Sassy, a clown with bright pink pigtails that stuck out at odd angles and a wardrobe full of glittery hand-me-downs. Sassy loved to strut around Utopia, acting like she was in charge, barking orders like a parade leader. But no one could take her seriously. Her attempts at being a tough clown usually ended in slapstick disasters. During one important heist meeting, she tried to show off her pumpkin stomping dance and tripped over her own shoelaces, falling headfirst into a pumpkin pie. The other clowns laughed so hard that Sassy stomped away, dripping with pie filling, muttering that she'd totally meant to do that. Gravel Freak was perhaps the most memorable member of the crew, mainly because of her enormous wiggly behind. Her polka-dotted pants were stretched to their limit, and every time she moved, her booty seemed to have a life of its own. Gravel Freak tried to tiptoe delicately, but she caused mini-earthquakes wherever she went. Once, during a silent heist rehearsal, she backed into a row of hay bales, knocking them over like a domino chain. The hay bales rolled into a pumpkin cart, sending pumpkins bouncing and tumbling everywhere. Benny yelled, "Gravel Freak, watch the pumpkins," but she only managed to blush and waddle away, her booty knocking over a scarecrow on the way out. Hip Locked, an old clown with a pointy nose and a passion for meddling, loved getting into everyone's business. She carried a belt full of magical wrenches that she used to fix things, although her fixes always made things hilariously worse. Once, she decided to reinforce the pumpkin patch fence, but her wrenches turned the simple wooden posts into wacky springs that bounced every pumpkin into the air like trampolines. The pumpkins squealed with delight, and Hip Locked tried to catch them, but only managed to get tangled in the fence, hanging upside down like a confused bat. Her mischievous partner in pranks was her granddaughter, Trixie, a little clown with a big bag of tricks. Trixie loved confetti bombs, sneaky whoopee cushions, and paint-filled balloons. During the heist, she set off a chain reaction of pranks. Confetti bombs exploded in Benny's hat. Paint balloons splattered Slithers' robes, and whoopee cushions went off every time someone sat down. The pumpkins couldn't stop laughing, and Trixie giggled uncontrollably, proud of the chaos she'd created. Mr. Fart H, the gang's silent but deadly clown, preferred to hide in corners, waiting for the perfect moment to release his signature stinky clouds. He was a master of silent mischief, always lurking in the shadows. During one heist attempt, he hid behind a scarecrow, and just as Benny tried to give a dramatic "let's do this" speech, Mr. Fart H let out a silent but foul-smelling cloud. The entire gang ran away gagging, while the scarecrow pinched its straw nose in disgust. Chasing clowns was the nosy clown who always showed up uninvited, crashing every heist and sticking her nose where it didn't belong. She'd pop out of nowhere, yelling, "Hey, what's going on?" and causing a ruckus. One time, she burst out of a pumpkin like a jack-in-the-box, sending seeds flying everywhere. The other clowns were so startled that they tripped over their own feet, and the pumpkins couldn't stop laughing at the ridiculous sight. Then there was Unstable, the so-called tech genius of the group, who had a glitter-covered laptop he called Super Hacky A. Unstable tried to hack into the pumpkin patch security system, but his laptop was more interested in playing prank videos and flashing dancing cat gifs. As he typed furiously, the screen lit up with a parade of dancing cats wearing sunglasses. Frustrated Unstable slammed his fists on the keyboard, only to accidentally summon a swarm of virtual kittens that escaped the screen and licked everyone's faces. The clowns were so tickled that they rolled around in laughter, completely forgetting their heist. Meanwhile, Gravel Freak had the responsibility of hiding a stash of super-secret hard drives decorated with stickers of unicorns and rainbows. She decided to hide them inside a hollow pumpkin for safekeeping, but as soon as she placed them in, the pumpkin rolled down a hill, bouncing and careening straight into a barrel of whipped cream. The hard drives splashed out, covered in cream, while Gravel Freak chased after them, slipping and sliding in the whipped cream and ending up covered from head to toe. And then there was Che, the dollar store clown, who was small enough to be mistaken for a lost balloon animal. Cher loved to boss everyone around and declare herself the pumpkin patch royalty, even though nobody really paid attention. She was often seen riding on her pet Mr. Beastly, a squeaky toy lion that made a pitiful little roar. Once Cher tried to make a grand entrance into the pumpkin patch by riding Mr. Beastly down a ramp, but the toy lion squeaked so loudly that all the pumpkins burst into laughter, and Cher fell face first into a pile of leaves, squeaking with every bounce. Finally, it was time for the heist. Benny rallied his crew, each clown dressed in their heist disguises, which included fake mustaches, mismatched socks, and glittery scarves. They tiptoed into the pumpkin patch, giggling and whispering about how clever they were. Benny reached out to grab the first pumpkin, but Slither's wand suddenly let out a burst of sparkles, turning his hair neon pink. Benny stumbled back, tripping over a pumpkin vine and landed in a pile of hay. Hip Locked tried to fix the situation by using her wrenches, but the wrenches went rogue, twisting themselves into balloon animals that danced away. Gravel Freak accidentally bumped into a wheelbarrow full of pies, sending them flying into the air. Pies splattered everywhere, covering the clowns in whipped cream and leaving the pumpkins laughing so hard they nearly rolled off their vines. Mr. Fart H, not wanting to be left out, unleashed his signature stink cloud. The clowns gagged and fanned the air, tripping over each other and sending confetti and glitter flying. Chasing clowns popped out of a haystack, yelling surprise, and only made things worse as the pumpkins erupted in laughter. Slithers, trying to salvage her dignity, whipped out her phone for one last selfie, hoping to look glamorous amidst the chaos. But a paint-filled balloon from Trixie's prank bag exploded over her head, covering her in rainbow paint. The photo she took ended up being another unflattering mess, with her makeup smeared and her wig askew. And of course, the pumpkins loved it. They snickered as the photo spread across YouTubia, turning Slithers into an accidental internet meme. The great pumpkin heist ended in a burst of glitter, pies, confetti, and pumpkin laughter. Benny and his gang sat in the middle of the pumpkin patch, defeated but giggling along with everyone else. "Well," Benny said, wiping whipped cream off his nose, "maybe we're not so good at heists, but we sure know how to make people laugh." And so YouTubia celebrated another day of clownish calamity. The pumpkins remained safe, their giggles echoing through the land, and Benny and his silly crew marched off to plan their next ridiculous adventure. It was sure to be even more hilariously disastrous, and YouTube